Hi everyone, the book I'm reviewing today is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I bought my book from Take a Lot for those who are in South Africa. I definitely recommend this book for anyone who's wanting to understand their habits better and how to change them. This was really useful. I love the examples that he uses. It really helps to understand the power of your habits a lot easier and the dynamics in terms of how they work. So very user friendly in terms of how to change these in your own life. Understanding habits is the most important thing I've learned in the army, the major told me. It's changed everything about how I see the world. You want to fall asleep fast and wake up feeling good? Pay attention to your nighttime patterns and what you automatically do when you get up. You want to make running easy? Create triggers to make it a routine. I drill my kids on this stuff. My wife and I write out habit plans for our marriage. This is all we talk about in command meetings. Not one person in Kufa would have told me that we could influence crowds by taking away the kebab stands. But once you see everything as a bunch of habits, it's like someone gave you a flashlight and a crowbar, and you can get to work. Habits are powerful but delicate. They can emerge outside our consciousness or can be deliberately designed. They often occur without our permission but can be reshaped by fiddling with their parts. They shape our lives far more than we realize. They are so strong, in fact, that they can cause our brains to cling to them at the exclusion of all else, including common sense. Someday soon, say predictive analytic experts, it will be possible for companies to know our tastes and predict our habits better than we know ourselves. However, knowing that someone might prefer a certain brand of peanut butter isn't enough to get them to act on that preference. To market a new habit, be it groceries or aerobics, you must understand how to make the novel seem familiar. Movements don't emerge because everyone suddenly decides to face the same direction at once. They rely on social patterns that begin as habits of friendships, grow through the habits of communities, and are sustained by new habits that change participants' sense of self. But what was really interesting were the near misses. To pathological gamblers, near misses looked like wins. Their brains reacted almost the same way. But to a non-pathological gambler, a near miss was like a loss. People without a gambling problem were better at recognizing that a near miss means you still lose. Two groups saw the exact same event, but from a neurological perspective, they viewed it differently. People with gambling problems got a mental high from the near misses, which, Habib hypothesizes, is probably why they gamble for so much longer than everyone else, because the near miss triggers those habits that prompt them to put down another bet. The non-problem gamblers, when they saw a near miss, got a dose of apprehension that triggered a different habit, the one that says, I should quit before it gets worse. Brian Thomas murdered his wife. Angie Bachman squandered her inheritance. Is there a difference in how society should assign responsibility? Thomas's lawyer argued that his client wasn't culpable for his wife's death because he acted unconsciously, automatically, his reaction cued by the belief that an intruder was attacking. He never chose to kill, his lawyer said, so he shouldn't be held responsible for her death. By the same logic, Bachman, as we know from Riza Habib's research on the brains of problem gamblers, was also driven by powerful cravings. She may have made a choice that first day when she got dressed up and decided to spend the afternoon in a casino, and perhaps in the weeks or months that followed. But years later, by the time she was losing $250,000 in a single night, after she was so desperate to fight the urges that she moved to a state where gambling wasn't legal, she was no longer making conscious decisions. Historically, in neuroscience, we've said that people with brain damage lose some of their free will, said Habib. But when a pathological gambler sees a casino, it seems very similar. It seems like they're acting without choice. Thomas's lawyer argued, in a manner that everyone believed, that his client had made a terrible mistake and would carry the guilt of it for life. However, isn't it clear that Bachman feels so much the same way? I feel so guilty, so ashamed of what I've done, she told me. I feel like I've let everyone down. I know that I'll never be able to make up for this no matter what I do. That said, there is one critical distinction between the cases of Thomas and Bachman. Thomas murdered an innocent person. He committed what has always been the gravest of crimes. Angie Bachman lost money. The only victims were herself, her family, and a $27 billion company that loaned her $125,000. Thomas was set free by society. Bachman was held accountable for her deeds. 10 months after Bachman lost everything, Harris tried to collect from her bank. The promissory notes she signed bounced, and so Harris sued her, demanding Bachman pay her debts and an additional $375,000 in penalties, a civil punishment in effect for committing a crime. She countersued, claiming that by extending her credit, free sweets and booze, Harris had preyed on someone they knew had no control over her habits. Her case went all the way to the state Supreme Court. Bachman's lawyer, echoing the arguments that Thomas's attorney had made on the murderer's behalf, said that she shouldn't be held culpable because she had been reacting automatically to temptations that Harris put in front of her. Once the offers started rolling in, he argued, once she walked into the casino, her habits took over and it was impossible for her to control her behavior. The justices, acting on behalf of society, said Bachman was wrong. There is no common law duty obligating a casino operator to refrain from attempting to entice or contact gamblers that it knows or should know are compulsive gamblers, the court wrote. The state had a voluntary exclusion program in which any person could ask for their name to be placed upon a list that required casinos to bar them from playing, and the existence of a voluntary exclusion program suggests the legislature intended pathological gamblers to take personal responsibility to prevent and protect themselves against compulsive gambling, wrote Justice Robert Rucker. Perhaps the difference in outcomes for Thomas and Bachman is fair. After all, it's easier to sympathize with a devastated widower than a housewife who threw everything away. Why is it easier though? Why does it seem the bereaved husband is a victim while the bankrupt gambler got her just desserts? Why do some habits seem like they should be so easy to control while others seem out of reach? More important, is it right to make a distinction in the first place? For Aristotle, habits reign supreme. The behaviors that occur unthinkingly are the evidence of our truest selves, he said. So, just as a piece of land has to be prepared beforehand if it is to nourish the seed, so the minds of the pupil have to be prepared in its habits for it to enjoy and dislike the right things. The difficult thing about studying the science of habits is that most people, when they hear about this field of research, want to know the secret formula for quickly changing any habit. If scientists have discovered how these patterns work, then it stands to reason that they must have also found a recipe for rapid change, right? If only it were that easy. It's not that formulas don't exist. The problem is that there isn't one formula for changing habits. There are thousands. Individuals and habits are all different, and so the specifics of diagnosing and changing the patterns in our lives differ from person to person and behavior to behavior. Giving up cigarettes is different from curbing overeating, which is different from changing how you communicate with your spouse, which is different from how you prioritize tasks at work. What's more, each person's habits are driven by different cravings. I hope you enjoyed that. If you've read this book, drop me a comment and also let me know what you're reading. Thank you.